Just as the choir allowed our souls to soar this morning, so God is always looking down upon us, saying to himself, how can I make their souls soar? How can I let my people know what a wonderful thing it is to be alive, to be human? How can I lead them into their destiny where they will find their true selves? Unfortunately, some of the things that we have to do to find out who we truly are and what we can do are things that we do not want to do. We find our destiny. We find our true nature only in the service of God. When we work for God, we discover how magnificent it is to be alive and what a wonderful thing it is to be truly human when we work for God. But for some people, working for God is a four-letter word, and we would rather do something else. When God says, come and work for me, we turn God away saying, no, I think that's someone else's job. On this Father's Day, I recall some of the conflict that I had with my father and my mother because they wanted me to work. And some of you may know that when you're a little child, you would much rather lie in bed or watch television or sit in the backyard and do absolutely nothing. And my parents were always nagging me saying, do this, do that. Oh, it was a horrible thing. I'm sure that none of you who are parents have ever had that difficulty with your kids. And I'm sure for those young people who have never had your parents nagging you saying, why don't you do this? In particular, I recall of my father. You remember I told you he was a minister, but he thought he was a farmer. And I remember in the spring and the summer when he would start planting seeds and doing his farming thing, and he would say to me, Mark, I want you to come and help me plant these seeds. I want you to come and help me water the garden. I want you to come and help me pull the weeds up. I want you to come and help me harvest the crop. And me thinking to myself, how come my father is so lazy? Assumptions about my dad and all the things that he was asking me to do for him. Number one, that he was lazy. Number two, that he was incompetent and couldn't do it himself. And number three, that he was mean. And the only reason he was asking me to work was so that he could ruin my son. My mom was no better. She would often be out in the kitchen baking bread. And she would say to me, Mark, I want you to come and work with me. I want you to mix the flour and the water and the baking soda. I want you to knead the dough together. I want you to watch as the dough sets and rises. I want you to help me put it in the oven. And I could only think, why, Mom, why? You're lazy and incompetent and mean just like that. It took me a long, long time. Well into adulthood, in fact, to the point where I had my own children, to realize there was another side to that story. I recall the times when I was doing something creative, perhaps like planting a seed in the garden, and I would say in my heart, wouldn't it be wonderful if I were to invite one of my children to come and help me? I want my kids to know the miracle of putting a seed in the ground and covering it with earth. I want my children to know that unbridled joy when that first little shoot sprouts up through the brown earth, new life. I want them to know that. I want them to know the pleasure of watering a garden and keeping seeing the miracle of life would be a blessing and a joy and a healing reality for them. And with all of this wonder and joy in my heart, I would say to one of the kids, "Come and help me in the garden." And they would turn to me with a scowl and say, "Why do I have to do that?"